What's up, everybody? Welcome into the Pack a Day podcast. I'm your host, Andy Herman. You can follow me on Twitter at Andy Herman NFL. Thank you so much for taking some time out of your day to join me. I greatly appreciate it. I cannot believe that it's already the very last day of open practices for training camp. It seems to have gone so incredibly fast. And of course, it was another practice or a joint session with the New York Jets on Thursday, and another very exciting day. Wasn't quite as long. Definitely was just as hot as Wednesday's practice, but a lot to get to. We'll cover all of it in just a moment. But before we get there, I did want to discuss the Packers alternate jerseys, which of course released on Thursday as well. And it seems most people very big fans of the jerseys. It was interesting to me, and these are the weird things that I think of, right? But like, it seems almost like there's different versions of the jerseys that got posted, and maybe some of it's lighting. I know a part of it is not lighting, but it was really interesting to me because in the pictures that Packers.com posted, it seemed like a much lighter green, a much lighter yellow. It was in bright lights, but they seemed like much brighter colors, like mirroring more of like an Oregon Ducks jersey, right? And then in the videos, though, that they posted, it looked like a much darker green. It looked like more of a goldish yellow color. I thought it looked much sharper in the videos. Also, if you look at different pictures and different videos, there's different versions of the jerseys because there are multiple pictures and videos with a number on top of the shoulder pads. And there are multiple pictures and videos of jerseys with no number on top of the shoulder pads. So I don't know if there's these are still sort of like a work in progress. I know, the Packer Pro Shop, it looks like, shipped a couple jerseys to Nagler and Banky already from Cheesehead TV. And those looked like the darker green with kind of the gold and did have a number on top. So it's just interesting that it seemed like, and again, maybe it's just a lighting thing from the color standpoint, but it very much seemed like there was like a lighter color one and a darker color one with numbers, one without numbers. Those, I don't know, just interesting. The darker ones with the gold colors I thought looked sharp. The ones that look like just a general green and yellow crayon, not a big fan of in the still pictures, but overall it's one game, who cares, whatever, no big deal. I think for the most part they pulled them off pretty well, but that was the big thing. And then also of semi-interest, probably of no interest, but it was at least noteworthy that of all the players that were in the photo shoots and the launch and everything like that, no Aaron Rodgers, no Devontae Adams. So Last Dance participants apparently were not doing the photo shoots for the jerseys. Probably nothing. Prior engagements. I thought maybe when I first noticed that it was, Rodgers probably just wasn't in town yet when they were doing this, but Randall Cobb was in them, so that's not the case either. But either way, it doesn't really matter. I thought they did a pretty good job with the jersey reveal overall, but definitely interesting that there seems to be maybe some different variations of the jersey. Let's go and start going over practice. So the first thing that was noteworthy to me is, everyone obviously is coming out and starting to do their stuff, and working off to the side was David Bakhtiari, just kind of doing some ladder drills and things like that. I posted a video on Twitter if you want to check it out. He looked fantastic. He looked in fantastic shape. It looked like he had no issues. Now, with ACLs, the big thing that you want to be, cautious of and cognizant of is like how they cut and things like that. So, he was doing high knees, he was doing, all of that sort of stuff, but not like sharp cuts on it. Now, for an offense, it's not like he's a running back, right? So for an offensive tackle, it's not as important, but it's certainly still important. So there's definitely going to be benchmarks that Bakhtiari needs to hit. I'm the furthest thing ever from a doctor, but I just don't know how, much better you could look coming off an ACL in December. And I know it's, now end of August-ish, but man, he just looks fantastic. He looks in great shape. He looks like he's running and moving just absolutely fine. I think that's obviously still has to be a big takeaway because he's just such an important, integral part of this offense. And yes, even though Elton Jenkins can go in there and play left tackle great, it also means that you don't have Elton Jenkins in at guard, right? Which is definitely a step down. So the more David Bakhtiari, the better, and hopefully he's going to be able to make it. They're going to have a huge decision with him soon, right? So if he breaks camp on the PUP list, that would mean he would miss the first 6 weeks of the season. So you can't bring him back prior to that. He would have to miss those first 6 weeks. If they take him off the PUP list, and put him on the 53-man roster, that means he could theoretically go week 1 or, again, anywhere in those first 6 weeks. But the first major decision they're going to have to make on him is, does he stay on the PUP list? And if so, that would immediately rule him out for those first 6 games of the season. So a big decision on Bakhtiari coming up, but he looked great running off to the side. Speaking of injuries, Green Bay certainly still has some players that are out injured. Tyler Lancaster, Zadarius Smith, both not practicing on Thursday, so those were both noteworthy. Other players not practicing: Jordan Love, Devin Funchess, Juwan Winfrey, Chris Blair, and Dennis Kelly. Remember, Funchess and Kelly both went out injured in Wednesday's practice, so they were not practicing Thursday. And again, the full list: Lancaster, Zadarius, Jordan Love, Funchess, Winfrey, Blair, and Dennis Kelly. So not the worst list in the world, but if you're going into a game, no Zadarius Smith, no David Bakhtiari if this were a game, and of course if neither of them could play, that would be an issue. But overall, I think Green Bay has to feel pretty good about their health where they are at this point in the offseason. Speaking of those injuries, Jordan Love and his status for Saturday seems to be pretty much a no-go. Matt LaFleur did mention that he wasn't going to rule it out entirely, but said it was very unlikely that Love would play on Saturday, which I don't know how anything would change, or that they would, change their mind at this point. If it's unlikely he's gonna play, he's not gonna play, right? So looks like it's gonna be, I would assume, like a full Kirk Benkert game. Maybe Dolagala gets in there for a series or two at the end, which is probably gonna be like primarily handoffs. I know Dolagala spent, some time in mini camps and OTAs, but I can only imagine there's only so much of the playbook that he knows and is comfortable with, especially with so many back end of the roster guys. So I would expect this to be a 90%, Kirk Benkert game, if not more. But definitely disappointing. Like, you go from one of the most hyped preseasons because it's your first look at Jordan Love to a game where it's just like, it's going to be probably tough to stomach a decent portion of it, just seeing how the offense can perform, knowing that the defense is going to sit like 90% of their starters. It just becomes much less entertaining as a fan of it. But either way, the most important thing is Jordan Love's health, and if he can't go, he can't go. Disappointing, yes, but hopefully he can get back there for preseason game 3 and play a huge chunk of that game and kind of make up for some of the reps he missed in game 1 and game 2. All right, let's get to actual practice portion. Lucas Patrick and Royce Newman were your starters. Interestingly enough, Lucas Patrick at left guard, Royce Newman at right guard. Patrick had worked at right guard up until this point in camp, as did Royce Newman. So usually they were kind of rotating those guys. We've seen a lot of John Runyon Jr. at left guard, as well as Ben Braden at left guard. But on this particular practice, we saw Lucas Patrick at left guard, Royce Newman at right. My assumption here, my belief is that right guard is probably Newman's best position and where he feels most comfortable. Lucas has a little bit more versatility with where he can play left guard, center, right guard, and has done it all in the past. Although I will say this, Lucas's worst graded games last year were when he switched to left guard. He played much better at right guard last season. When he had to go to left guard, it didn't work out as well. So either way, definitely still something to keep an eye on, but we're trending right now, and there's a ways to go with this battle still, but I don't know that we're not trending right now towards a lineup that has both Josh Myers and Royce Newman starting on week 1, 2 rookies along the offensive line. And oh, by the way, like, this rookie class is trending very much in the right direction right now. Eric Stokes, I think, is very much going to push Kevin King for a starting job. Josh Myers is going to start. Royce Newman might start. Amari Rodgers is going to have a role, probably primarily as a kick returner, maybe a handful of snaps like Tyler Ervin, but he's still going to have a role on this team. I definitely think TJ Slayton's going to be in the mix. And like I said, Kylan Hill is already going to be your third running back, and he's taken a bunch of reps with the ones the last couple of days, continues to look good. And I'm sorry, I said Amari kick returner. Amari will be punt returner, and Kylan's probably going to be the kick returner. So I think this rookie class is trending to see a significant amount of overall playing time, and certainly much more than the rookie class did a season ago. Play of the day, Jair Alexander. I don't know that it was like an insane play or whatever, but just another interception in camp, and he's just been nothing short of phenomenal, which is exactly what you'd expect out of Jair Alexander, but he's legitimately still getting better. Like, he looks better than he did last training camp. And oh, by the way, he was an all-pro, right? So he is just it's such a fun thing to watch him and how he practices and how he goes about his day-to-day stuff. And this was just another one of those days, just absolutely on top of everything. And you can see, the competitive juices with him are flowing even more with another team in town. But the last thing for Jair is turning that great coverage into turnovers and game-changing plays. He's flashed that now in this training camp. If all of a sudden you start seeing him get 6, 7, 8 interceptions, which, to be fair, is hard because teams generally don't throw at him. But if he starts making those sort of impact plays, I mean, he's legitimately going to be in Defensive Player of the Year conversations if that starts happening. So it's just a phenomenal camp for Jair and just another great day for him today. Oh, by the way, another cornerback who had a pass breakup again today, KB Nento. Guess who else did? Innis Gaines. So kind of my two, under the radar, whatever you want to call them, guys, like continuing to make plays day after day. Innis Gaines also had a really great rep in special teams drills where he just kind of got right by the Jets blocker and made a play. Like, he's just having a really nice camp. And again, KB Nento showed up on a couple different occasions, even got some reps against the Jets. Well, he was on the second team, but getting reps against the Jets' first team in a 2-minute drill and broke up a pass. He's been fantastic. He's been really, really good. And I think he's going to get that number 6 cornerback spot. Another couple players who have been really good, I think Devondre Campbell. And listen, I'm very hesitant on Devondre Campbell. I watched a lot of his tape and I've kind of tracked him the last few years. His tape is very inconsistent and it leaves you always wanting more because you see this potential, but then you look at it and there's just so many plays where you're just like it's just not all there. He's been really good in camp, and we'll see if that translates or how that translates over into Sundays, but Green Bay has to be thrilled. And listen, you're playing a lot of zone defense, right? So in this Joe Barry system, one of the most underrated things that you can have is a tall inside linebacker playing zone defense in the middle of the field, because especially if you're playing 2 split safeties, right? And so many times that inside linebacker is responsible for covering the inside third. If you have a tight end or whatever, a wide receiver streaking down the middle of the field, if you have a fast, tall inside linebacker, those zones now become much smaller, because as you're a quarterback and you see a 6'4", 6'5" linebacker out there, they just look bigger and that window just looks so much smaller, which can make you hesitate pulling the trigger on some of those deep shots over the middle against cover 2. It's just one of those things where it's like an NBA team, right? When you're facing a team of a team that has like all like 6'9", 6'10" defenders with like 7'7" wingspans, and just everything's contested and everything's harder. When you've got that long, lanky, fast inside linebacker, it makes things really difficult. And the thing with Campbell too is like he's big enough and physical enough to really mix it up inside. Again, I'm tempering expectations because of what's been on tape with him over the last handful of seasons. The tape has been inconsistent. Last year in Arizona was inconsistent through his career at Atlanta. But every once in a while, a player at this stage just finds the right defense, the right spot, the right players next to him, and starts to thrive. And maybe that's Devondre Campbell. The talent has never been in question. But again, he's a player that's had a really nice training camp, and hoping that that's something that translates over on Sundays. Another player, Preston Smith. Again, very hesitant here because his tape last year left a lot to be desired, was nowhere near what he put on tape in 2019, but he's been really good in camp. Had a couple plays of pressure, and then a play where George Fant, the right tackle, Smith just went right through him, literally bull rushed him right back into the quarterback. And he's been making plays just about every day. And with Rashawn Gary, being nicked up the last weekish, Zadarius Smith not, there, Preston's been the guy kind of holding down the fort at edge rusher, and he's looked really good doing it. Again, Wednesday, I was watching the other side on this day, but Wednesday, all reports was that he was having his way with Mekhi Becton, the second year, rookie from a season ago, who's apparently by all regards, a really, really, really good right tackle. And again, Preston had his way with him. And again, it's just been a really nice couple days for Preston and a really nice camp for him so far. Sticking with edge rusher, another player who has really caught eyes is Chauncey Rivers, which is so rare for a guy to come in like midway through and really kind of get in the conversation like that, especially after another team just cut him before even your 85, roster cut down. So like imagine, what are the odds, right? That like a team didn't even want you on their 90-man roster, that you're going to claim him and then have him potentially make the team. And I'm not saying he's going to, or that he's even, who knows how far in that, discussion he is, right? Jonathan Garvin, Tipa Naliai, both there here in their second years. Rivers just got here. But as I mentioned the other day, I think you can make a strong argument that Chauncey Rivers has made more plays since he's been here than Garvin or Tipa, and they've been here the entire offseason, right? And on Thursday, he had a sack, he had a tackle for loss, and his reps got him first team reps with the first team defense in the 2-minute drill, because remember, Z wasn't practicing, Rashawn wasn't doing team, so it was Preston, and they needed one more edge rusher. Again, in the final 2-minute drill of the day, they went with Rivers as the next guy up. Instead of Garvin, instead of Tipa, instead of anyone else, Delonte Scott, it was Rivers who worked his way up into those snaps because he was having a great day and he's had a great camp since he got here. So again, how far I want to go to say who's in the running for that number 4 edge spot, I don't know, but out of Garvin, Tipa, Rivers, like that spot's wide open, and there's nothing to say that Rivers couldn't be that guy. As far as the offense, again, I was watching defense on this practice, so didn't get to see a ton of the offense, but by all accounts, Rodgers was dealing a couple touchdown throws to Devontae Adams, touchdown throw to Bobby Tunyon, big throw to MVS. Sounds like overall they had, the offense had a really great day on the other side, a lot of touchdowns in 2-minute drills, so that's obviously great to hear and what you want to hear against a team that's practicing against you. I know it's just the Jets, but they have some good players on defense. Speaking of those good players on defense, Carl Lawson, arguably the Jets' best player, and definitely their best defensive player, I would think. He unfortunately goes down, gets carted off, and he tore his Achilles. He's going to be out for the year, which is brutal. And by all accounts, he was having a phenomenal training camp. Of course, big free agent signing for them. This is not a very good Jets team at all. And now to lose Carl Lawson is just beyond brutal. So tough break for them. And then Zane Lewis, their safety, also got carted off. So we talk about, with joint practices, maybe a little bit more injuries. Remember, Funchess and Dennis Kelly went out with injuries on Wednesday. Hopefully nothing serious there, but Jets, 2 big-time injuries. And, of course, Carl Lawson being the noteworthy one there. Last couple news and notes, or I guess really one more. Devontae Adams talked about Eric Stokes in his post-practice press conference, and here was his quote. "He's the closest thing to Jair as far as mentality and ability from what I've seen so far. The kid is fast as hell. He can get beat and recover, kind of like how Sam Shields would do. I like what I see from him. He can really go." Listen, that's insanely high praise from Devontae Adams. He also spoke about how a few days ago on a comeback route that Stokes played it really well and was super patient. And that was something that I had noted as well, as the increased patience with Eric Stokes as this training camp's gone along. And remember, when I did my biggest disappointments a week and a half-ish, 2 weeks ago, whatever it was, Stokes was firmly on there. I was definitely not alone in that assessment for anyone who was at camp. He was struggling. He's been really good the last week and a half. And again, this is very normal stuff for rookies and especially rookie corners, but I could not be more impressed with the growth that he has shown from minicamp, OTA, and early in training camp where he really struggled, to seeing him legitimately slow things down and the light go on, and to get praise like this from Devontae. Like, the improvement's been real, it's been legitimate, and it's been fantastic to see. And we'll see how that carries over into Sundays. Again, nobody's crowning any of these players until we see them in games, but that's high praise from Devontae, and he's looked really good in practice the last week and a half. So improvement from Stokes in your rookie class is exactly what you want to see. And again, as I mentioned earlier, this rookie class is looking really good right now. Lastly, make sure to check out today's audio version of the Pack-A-Day podcast. Special guest Matt Schneidman from The Athletic with Dusty, Steve, and Sarah. Definitely one you're not going to want to miss. So if you have not checked out the audio version yet, trust me, do so. The team of people we have working on it is phenomenal. We've got about 25 people, a lot of names that you know and love in the Packers sphere, but special guest Matt Schneidman today, so make sure to check that out. Make sure to subscribe here if you haven't already. I'll be right back here tomorrow with an all-new episode, so make sure to check that out. But until next time, and as always, go Pack Go.